The afternoon sun streamed through the glass doors of Riverside Mall as Tom walked inside. His old Marine Corps jacket zipped halfway up against the autumn chill. At 45, he still carried himself with military posture, though his face showed the weariness of someone who had seen more than most. His jeans were faded but clean, and his boots, though worn, were carefully laced. Tom checked his phone. His daughter Lisa had texted that she needed another 20 minutes. She was inside looking for a birthday gift for her roommate. He spotted a bench near the main entrance and sat down, grateful for a moment to rest. The mall was busy for a Thursday afternoon, with people rushing past carrying shopping bags and coffee cups. He leaned back and watched the crowd. Families with strollers, teenagers laughing in groups, elderly couples walking slowly, hand in hand. It was the kind of peaceful scene he had fought to protect all those years ago. Sometimes these quiet moments were harder than people realized. The noise, the crowds, the sudden movements, they all kept him alert in ways he wished he could turn off. About 10 minutes passed before Tom noticed the two security guards heading toward him. They wore navy blue uniforms with badges that caught the overhead lights. The taller one, who looked to be in his 30s, walked with an aggressive stride. His partner, younger and stockier, followed half a step behind. "Excuse me, sir," the tall guard said, his tone already sharp. "You need to move along." Tom looked up, confused. "I'm sorry, what?" "You heard me. This isn't a homeless shelter. You can't just sit here." The words hit Tom like a slap. He sat up straighter. "I'm not homeless. I'm waiting for my daughter. She's shopping inside." The stocky guard crossed his arms. "Sure you are. We've heard that one before." Tom felt his jaw tighten, but he kept his voice calm. Years of military discipline had taught him to control his reactions, even when anger bubbled underneath. "I'm serious. She'll be out in about 10 more minutes. I'm just sitting here waiting." "Look at yourself, buddy," the tall guard said, gesturing at Tom's jacket. "You're making customers uncomfortable. This is a high-end mall. We have standards." A few shoppers began to slow down, sensing drama. Tom noticed a woman with a shopping bag pause near a potted plant, watching. An older man stopped pretending to look at his phone. "I served in the Marines," Tom said quietly, pointing to the patch on his jacket. "I'm a veteran, and I have every right to sit on this bench while I wait for my daughter." The stocky guard laughed, a sound that made Tom's hands clench. "Oh, here we go. Stolen valor, probably. You buy that jacket at a thrift store?" Tom stood up slowly. He was tired of this. Tired of being judged. Tired of people assuming the worst. "That jacket is mine. I earned every patch on it. I served 3 tours overseas." "Prove it," the tall guard demanded, stepping closer. "Show me your military ID." "I don't carry it anymore," Tom said. "I was medically discharged 4 years ago." "How convenient," the guard sneered. "Can't prove anything, can you?" Just another guy pretending to be something he's not to get sympathy. More people had stopped now. Tom could see phones coming out. A teenage boy held his device up, clearly recording. The attention made his skin crawl. This was exactly the kind of scene he tried to avoid. Crowds, confrontation, chaos, it all triggered something deep inside him that never quite went away. "I'm asking you politely to leave my daughter alone and let me wait in peace," Tom said, forcing his voice to stay level. "I'm not causing any trouble." The tall guard reached for Tom's arm. "Either you walk out yourself or we'll escort you out." "Don't touch me," Tom said firmly, pulling his arm back. His heart was racing now, that familiar feeling of being cornered rising in his chest. That's when a woman in a business suit approached. She had a name tag that read manager. Her expression was already set in stone before she even heard the full story. "What seems to be the problem here?" she asked, looking directly at Tom with suspicion. The stocky guard jumped in quickly. "This man is loitering, ma'am. He claims he's waiting for someone, but we think he's homeless. He's making customers uncomfortable." The manager looked Tom up and down, her nose wrinkling slightly. "Sir, I'm going to have to ask you to leave. This is private property, and we reserve the right to refuse service to anyone." "I'm not asking for service," Tom said, his voice rising slightly despite his best efforts. "I'm sitting on a bench waiting for my daughter who is shopping in your mall. I've done nothing wrong." "If you don't leave immediately, I'll call the police," the manager said coldly. Tom felt trapped. The small crowd had grown larger. Phones were definitely recording now. His breathing was getting faster, that old feeling of panic starting to creep in. He wanted to explain, wanted to make them understand, but the words felt stuck in his throat. Just then, a young voice cut through the tension. "Dad." Lisa came running through the crowd, shopping bags swinging from her arms. She was 19, with her mother's dark hair and Tom's determined eyes. She pushed past the guards and stood beside her father. "What's going on?" she demanded, looking between Tom and the security guards. "Is this man your father?" the manager asked skeptically. "Yes. We came here together. I was shopping while he waited." "What's the problem?" The tall guard looked embarrassed for just a moment, but the manager wasn't backing down. "Your father was asked to leave and refused. His appearance was disturbing other customers." Lisa's face flushed red. "His appearance? He's a decorated Marine veteran. He served our country." The manager shrugged. "That may be, but we still need to maintain certain standards in our establishment." The crowd had grown silent, watching. In that moment, Tom felt smaller than he had in years, not because of what they were saying, but because his daughter had to defend him, because after everything he had sacrificed, he was being treated like he didn't belong in his own community. And that was just the beginning. Lisa pulled out her phone and held it up to the manager's face. "I have our text messages right here. See, I told him I needed 20 minutes. We drove here together in his truck. It's parked in Section C." The manager barely glanced at the phone. "That doesn't change the fact that he was asked to leave and became argumentative." "Argumentative?" Tom's voice cracked with disbelief. "I was sitting quietly on a bench." The tall security guard stepped forward again, his hand moving toward Tom's shoulder. "Sir, we're going to need you to come with us now. Both of you need to leave the premises." Tom stepped back instinctively. The movement was automatic, trained into him from years of staying alert. "Don't put your hands on me." "Dad, let's just go," Lisa said quietly, touching his arm. She could see the tension in his shoulders, the way his jaw was clenched. She had seen this before when things got too overwhelming for him. But Tom couldn't move. Something about walking away, about letting them win, felt impossible. He had spent too many years fighting for people who would treat him like this. "No, I didn't do anything wrong." The crowd around them had grown larger. At least 20 people now stood in a loose circle, watching the scene unfold. Most held their phones up, recording. A few whispered to each other. An elderly woman shook her head sadly. A young man in a college sweatshirt had his phone positioned to capture everything. The stocky guard moved to Tom's other side. "Last warning. Leave voluntarily or we'll remove you." "This is insane," Lisa said, her voice getting louder. "You're treating my father like a criminal because of how he looks? This is discrimination." "Watch your tone, young lady," the manager said sharply. "Or you'll be banned from this property as well." That's when the tall guard grabbed Tom's arm. His grip was firm, meant to control and move him. The touch sent a jolt through Tom's system. For a split second, he wasn't in the mall anymore. He was back in the desert, hands grabbing at him in the chaos of combat. His breath caught in his throat. "Get your hands off him," Lisa shouted, pushing between them. The guard released Tom but pointed at both of them. "That's it. You're both leaving now." A voice from the crowd called out, "Leave them alone. He's not hurting anyone." Another person yelled, "This is wrong." But the manager raised her hand. "Everyone needs to disperse. This is a private matter." Tom's hands were shaking now. The walls felt like they were closing in. Too many people. Too much noise. Too much attention. Lisa noticed and grabbed his hand, squeezing it the way she used to when she was little and scared. "We're leaving," she announced loudly. "But you haven't heard the last of this." The manager smiled coldly. "Have a nice day." As Tom and Lisa walked toward the exit, the tall guard called after them, "And don't come back. Next time we'll have the police waiting." Several people in the crowd followed them with their cameras still recording. The automatic doors slid open and the cool air hit Tom's face. He kept walking, focused on getting to the truck, getting away from all those eyes. Lisa waited until they reached the parking lot before she stopped. "Dad, are you okay?" Tom leaned against his truck, breathing hard. Yeah, I'm fine. That was horrible. I can't believe they treated you like that." "It happens," Tom said quietly, though his voice was bitter. "It shouldn't happen. Not to you. Not to anyone." Lisa pulled out her phone again. "I'm calling Mom." "Don't," Tom said quickly. "She'll just worry. She should worry. I'm worried." Lisa's hands were shaking as she scrolled through her phone. "Dad, look at this." She held up her screen. Someone had already posted a video. The caption read, "Veteran kicked out of mall for sitting on bench. Disgusting how we treat our heroes." Tom's stomach dropped. "Oh no." "Oh yes," Lisa said, her eyes brightening. "People need to see this." This mall needs to be held accountable. Within the next hour, as Tom drove them home in silence, the video began to spread. The college kid who had recorded the confrontation had posted his footage on multiple platforms. Someone else had uploaded their version from a different angle. The clips were being shared, commented on, and reshared. By the time they pulled into Tom's driveway, Lisa's phone wouldn't stop buzzing. "Dad, you need to see this." It's everywhere. Tom didn't want to look. He wanted to forget the whole thing, take his medication, and try to sleep. But Lisa was persistent. "Look," she said, showing him comment after comment. "People are on your side. They're angry about what happened." Tom scrolled through the comments. Strangers from across the country were sharing their own stories of discrimination. Veterans were posting pictures in their uniforms with messages of support. Someone had started identifying the mall and tagging their corporate account. "This is getting out of hand," Tom muttered, but it was only beginning. By evening, local news stations had picked up the story. A reporter left a voicemail on Tom's phone asking for an interview. The mall's social media accounts were flooded with angry messages. People were posting one-star reviews, sharing the videos, demanding action. Lisa sat at the kitchen table, reading through everything on her laptop. "Dad, someone found your service record. They're posting about your Purple Hearts, about how you saved those soldiers in Afghanistan." Tom felt his chest tighten. "How did they find that?" "Your unit patch was visible in the video. Some veterans recognized it and looked you up." She turned the laptop toward him. "They're calling you a hero." "I'm not a hero," Tom said automatically. "I just did my job." "Well, a lot of people disagree." Lisa's phone rang. She looked at the number and her eyes widened. "It's the VFW post commander." "Should I answer?" Tom nodded slowly and Lisa put it on speaker. "Hello, is this Lisa Chen?" a man's deep voice asked. "Yes, sir. My name is Robert Hayes. I'm the commander of VFW Post 2847 here in town. I'm trying to reach your father, Tom. We saw what happened at the mall today. Our entire post wants to help." Tom took the phone from Lisa. "This is Tom." "Brother," the commander said, and Tom could hear the emotion in his voice. "What they did to you today was wrong, and we're not going to let it stand. I appreciate that, but I just want to forget about it. I understand, but sometimes we have to stand up not just for ourselves, but for every veteran who's been treated this way. You're not alone in this." "You've never been alone?" Tom closed his eyes. He hadn't felt this supported in years, not since he left the service. "What do you have in mind?" he asked quietly. "Let me worry about that," Commander Hayes said. "For now, you rest. Take care of yourself. We're going to take care of the rest." After they hung up, Tom sat in silence. Lisa watched him carefully. "Dad? Yeah? Something big is about to happen, isn't it?" Tom looked at his daughter and saw the same determination he used to see in his fellow Marines. "Yeah, I think it is." Outside, the sun was setting, and across the city, in homes and meeting halls, veterans were making phone calls and sending messages. The Brotherhood that had kept Tom alive in combat was about to remind the world that they never leave a soldier behind, not even at home. Tom didn't sleep much that night. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw the security guard's smirking face, heard the manager's cold voice telling him he didn't belong. By morning, his phone had 17 missed calls and dozens of text messages from numbers he didn't recognize. Lisa came over early with coffee and her laptop. "Dad, you need to see this." She set the computer on his kitchen table and pulled up a news article. The headline read, "Decorated Veteran Humiliated at Local Mall." Below it were screenshots from the videos, his face clearly visible in his Marine Corps jacket. "They're running it on 3 different channels," Lisa said. "And look at the mall's page." Tom leaned forward. The mall's social media account was drowning in comments. Thousands of them. People were posting pictures of themselves in military uniforms with messages like, "I guess I'm not welcome either," and "This is how you treat heroes?" The corporate office released a statement an hour ago. Lisa continued, clicking to another tab. She read it aloud. "We are aware of an incident that occurred at our Riverside location and are investigating the matter thoroughly. We value all our customers and take these concerns seriously." "That's it?" Tom asked. "That's their apology?" "That's not an apology at all," Lisa said. "That's corporate speak for 'we hope this blows over.'" Tom's phone rang again. This time he recognized the number. "Commander Hayes from the VFW. Tom, good morning. Have you been online?" "Lisa's showing me now." "Then you know this story has legs." Every veteran organization in the state is talking about it. We've been making calls all night. The commander paused. How do you feel about a peaceful demonstration? Tom's heart skipped. What kind of demonstration? Nothing aggressive. Just veterans standing together in solidarity. This Saturday at the mall, we show up in our uniforms, our vests, our colors. We stand there respectfully and remind people that we deserve dignity. I don't know, Tom said slowly. That's a lot of attention. Brother, the attention is already there. The question is whether we use it for something good. You don't have to speak. You don't have to do anything except show up. Let us stand with you. Tom looked at Lisa, who was nodding eagerly. He thought about all the times he'd felt invisible since leaving the service. All the times people looked through him instead of at him. Okay, he said finally. I'll be there. Outstanding. I'll send you the details, and Tom, you're about to see what brotherhood really means. Over the next 3 days, the story exploded beyond anything Tom could have imagined. A reporter from the state's largest newspaper tracked him down and wrote a feature article. It detailed his 3 tours overseas. The firefight where he'd carried 2 wounded soldiers to safety while injured himself, the Purple Hearts he'd earned, and the PTSD that had ended his military career. The article included quotes from his former commanding officer, who Tom hadn't spoken to in 2 years. Tom Chen is one of the finest Marines I ever served with, the officer said. What happened to him is a disgrace. He deserves better. All our veterans do. Veterans groups across the country began sharing the story. Someone created a hashtag that started trending. Local businesses posted signs saying, "Veterans always welcome." A restaurant downtown announced free meals for any veteran on Saturday. But not everyone was supportive. The mall doubled down on their statement, with the manager giving an interview claiming Tom had been aggressive and threatening. The security company that employed the guards issued a statement backing their employees' actions. They're lying, Lisa said angrily, watching the interview on her phone. You were nothing but polite. It's their word against mine, Tom said quietly. No, it's their word against 20 videos from different angles, Lisa corrected. The truth is out there. On Friday evening, Tom's doorbell rang. He opened it to find Commander Hayes standing there with 3 other veterans, all roughly Tom's age. They wore jeans and VFW caps. We wanted to check on you before tomorrow, Hayes said. Make sure you're doing okay. Tom invited them in. They sat in his living room, and for the first time in days, Tom felt something close to calm. These men understood. They'd been through their own struggles coming home. They knew what it was like to feel lost in the country you'd fought for. How many people are coming tomorrow? Tom asked. Hayes smiled. Last count? About 300 confirmed. Maybe more. Tom's eyes widened. 300? Veterans from all over the state. Some are driving 5 hours to be here. We've got Marines, Army, Navy, Air Force, Coast Guard. Vietnam vets, Gulf War vets, Iraq, Afghanistan. Some are riding in with motorcycle clubs. Others are coming in their dress uniforms. One of the other veterans, a man with gray hair and a Navy anchor tattoo on his forearm, leaned forward. What happened to you could have happened to any of us. Has happened to some of us. We're tired of being treated like we're broken or dangerous or less than. Tomorrow we remind people who we are. The media will be there too, Hayes added. Channel 5, Channel 9, probably some national outlets. This is bigger than just you now, Tom. This is about respect, about dignity, about making sure no veteran ever has to go through what you did. Tom felt his throat tighten. I don't know what to say. You don't have to say anything, the Navy veteran replied. Just show up. We'll handle the rest. They stayed for another hour, talking about everything except the mall. They shared stories from their service, laughed about old memories, and reminded Tom that he was part of something bigger than himself. When they left, Tom felt lighter than he had in months. Saturday morning arrived with clear skies and cool temperatures. Tom put on his Marine Corps jacket, the same one he'd been wearing at the mall. Lisa picked him up at 9 o'clock. You ready for this, Dad? Tom took a deep breath. As ready as I'll ever be. They drove to the mall in silence. As they turned onto the main road leading to the parking lot, Tom's breath caught. There were people everywhere. The parking lot was filling up fast. Men and women in uniform. Motorcycle riders in leather vests covered with patches. Groups holding American flags and POW MIE banners. Oh my God, Lisa whispered. They parked and walked toward the main entrance. As they got closer, Tom saw Commander Hayes coordinating with other veterans. Someone had set up a speaker system. Local police were present but standing back, clearly there to keep the peace rather than cause trouble. Then the crowd noticed Tom. Someone pointed, and heads began to turn. A ripple went through the gathering. And then, something happened that made Tom's eyes burn with tears. The veterans began to applaud. Slowly at first, then building, hundreds of people clapping not for a hero, not for a victim, but for one of their own, a Marine who had given everything and been treated like nothing. Commander Hayes walked over and clasped Tom's hand. "Welcome home, brother. Welcome home." Tom looked around at the sea of faces, young and old, different branches, different wars, different stories, but all connected by service and sacrifice, all standing together. For the first time since that awful day, Tom didn't feel alone. He felt seen. He felt valued. He felt like he belonged, and the day was just beginning. The crowd continued to grow as more veterans arrived. Tom stood near the entrance, watching in amazement as cars and motorcycles kept pulling into the parking lot. The rumble of engines mixed with voices greeting old friends and meeting new ones. Some veterans embraced like brothers who hadn't seen each other in years. Others shook hands with the firm grip of shared understanding. A woman in her 60s approached Tom. She wore an army jacket with patches from Desert Storm. Her gray hair was pulled back in a neat ponytail. "Thank you for being brave. Enough to stand up," she said, her voice thick with emotion. "My son came home from Iraq different. He struggles every day. People treat him like he's dangerous, like he's less than human. What you're doing here today matters." Before Tom could respond, she hugged him and disappeared back into the crowd. He felt Lisa's hand squeeze his shoulder. "Dad, look," she whispered, pointing toward the mall entrance. The mall staff had gathered inside the glass doors, watching. Tom recognized the manager standing front and center, her arms crossed, her face pale. The two security guards stood behind her, no longer looking confident or smug. They looked scared. Commander Hayes stepped up to a microphone someone had set up. The crowd quieted down. "Brothers and sisters," he began, his voice carrying across the parking lot. "We're here today for a simple reason: respect, dignity, recognition that those who served deserve to be treated with honor, not shame." The crowd erupted in applause. Someone shouted, "Hooah!" and others joined in with their own service calls. Hayes continued, "We're not here to cause trouble. We're not here to threaten anyone. We're here to stand together and say that what happened to our brother Tom was wrong. And it ends today." More applause. News cameras were positioned at multiple angles, capturing everything. A reporter was doing a live broadcast, speaking urgently into her microphone. An older veteran stepped forward, leaning on a cane. He wore a Vietnam veteran's cap and his jacket displayed numerous medals. Hayes handed him the microphone. "My name is Frank Wilson," the man said, his voice steady despite his age. "I served 2 tours in Vietnam. When I came home, people spit on me, called me a baby killer, told me I wasn't welcome." He paused, emotion catching in his throat. 50 years later, and we're still fighting to be treated like human beings. Still fighting to be seen, still fighting to matter. The silence that followed was heavy. Then someone started clapping and soon everyone joined in. Frank wiped his eyes and handed the microphone back. Tom felt his own tears falling but didn't bother to hide them. Around him, other veterans were crying too. There was no shame in it. Just raw, honest emotion. A motorcycle club president spoke next. A big man with a thick beard and arms covered in tattoos. "We ride thousands of miles every year to honor fallen soldiers. We stand at funerals. We support families. We do this because we know what sacrifice means." He pointed toward the mall. "But when one of our own needs us, we ride even faster. We stand even stronger." The crowd roared its approval. Inside the mall, Tom could see the manager talking frantically on her phone. Other staff members were recording the gathering on their phones. Shoppers had gathered at the windows watching the scene unfold. A woman in a Marine Corps dress uniform approached the microphone. She was young, maybe 30, with sharp eyes and a confident bearing. "I'm Lieutenant Rodriguez," she said. "I'm currently stationed at Camp Pendleton. I drove 7 hours to be here today because Tom Chen is my brother in arms. I never served with him, never met him before today. But that doesn't matter. When you wear this uniform, you're part of a family, and families protect each other." She turned to face Tom directly. "Sir, on behalf of every Marine who couldn't be here today, thank you for your service. Thank you for your sacrifice. And know that we will never let anyone make you feel less than the hero you are." Tom couldn't stop the sob that escaped. Lisa wrapped her arm around him as the crowd applauded again. Commander Hayes took the microphone back. "We have something special prepared. Tom, would you join me up here?" Tom hesitated, but Lisa gently pushed him forward. The crowd parted as he walked to the front. His legs felt weak, but he kept moving. Hayes pulled out a folder. Over the past 3 days, veterans from all 50 states have been signing a letter. Some signed it digitally, others mailed in their signatures. Some even faxed them from VA hospitals. He opened the folder and held up pages and pages of names. "We have over 10,000 signatures from veterans who stand with you." The crowd went wild. Tom stared at the pages, unable to process what he was seeing. "This letter," Hayes continued, "is being delivered to the mall's corporate headquarters, to the mayor's office, and to every major news outlet in the state. It demands policy changes, mandatory training, accountability. We're not just fighting for Tom. We're fighting for every veteran who's been mistreated, overlooked, or disrespected." A group of veterans from Tom's old unit stepped forward. He recognized some of them immediately. Danny, who'd been his squad leader. Miguel, who'd joked around even during the worst firefights. Chris, who'd been beside him the day he earned his Purple Heart. "Hey, brother," Danny said, pulling Tom into a fierce hug. "Did you really think we'd let you face this alone?" "How did you even know?" Tom asked, his voice breaking. "Social media, man," Miguel laughed. "Your face was everywhere. We started making calls immediately. Bought plane tickets. Drove through the night. We're here. We're always here." The four of them stood together, arms around each other's shoulders, while photographers captured the moment. Tom felt like he could breathe again for the first time in days. Inside the mall, something shifted. The manager disappeared from the windows. Staff members were talking urgently to each other. A man in a suit arrived, looking official and very stressed. Corporate had finally shown up. Hayes spoke into the microphone again. "The mall's corporate leadership has requested a meeting. They want to discuss changes and issue a formal apology." The crowd booed, but Hayes raised his hand. "We're going to take that meeting, but we're not going alone." He gestured to Tom and several other veterans. "We have demands. Real changes, not just pretty words. And if they're not willing to meet those demands, we'll be back next Saturday. And the Saturday after that. And every Saturday until they understand that we won't be ignored." The veterans cheered. Some pumped their fists in the air. Others embraced each other. A corporate representative emerged from the mall, flanked by the stressed man in the suit. They approached slowly, clearly uncomfortable facing the massive crowd. "Mr. Chen," the woman said, her voice wavering, "on behalf of Riverside Mall and our corporate office, I want to apologize. What happened to you was unacceptable and does not reflect our values." "Actions speak louder than words," Commander Hayes said firmly. "Let's go inside and talk about what real change looks like." Tom looked back at the crowd of veterans. Hundreds of faces looking at him with respect, support, and brotherhood. These people had dropped everything to stand with him. Strangers who became family in an instant. He straightened his shoulders, lifted his chin, and walked toward the mall entrance. Not as a man being kicked out, but as a veteran being honored. Not alone, but surrounded by brothers and sisters who would never leave him behind. The automatic doors opened, and this time, Tom walked through them with his head held high. The conference room on the mall's second floor felt too small for the number of people crammed inside. Tom sat at the head of the table with Commander Hayes on one side and Lisa on the other. Behind them stood Danny, Miguel, and Chris from his old unit. Several other veteran representatives lined the walls. Across from them sat the corporate team. The woman who'd apologized outside, 2 lawyers, a PR consultant, and via video call, the company's CEO. The manager and both security guards sat in the corner, looking like they wanted to disappear. "Let's get right to it," Hayes said, pulling out a document. "We have 5 non-negotiable demands." The corporate woman nodded nervously. "We're listening." First, immediate termination of the 2 security guards involved. No severance, no recommendation letters. What they did was discrimination, plain and simple. One of the lawyers started to object, but the CEO's voice came through the speaker. "Agreed, they're fired effective immediately." The 2 guards stood up to leave. As they passed Tom, the tall one mumbled, "This is such garbage." Danny stood up fast. "What did you just say?" The guard's face went red. "Nothing. I said nothing." "That's what I thought," Danny said quietly, but his eyes were hard. The guards left quickly. Tom let out a breath he didn't know he'd been holding. Hayes continued. Second, the manager involved will be reassigned away from any customer-facing role and required to complete extensive diversity and sensitivity training before returning to any position. The manager's face crumpled, but she nodded. The CEO agreed without hesitation. Third, mandatory training for all mall employees across all your locations, not just a video they click through. Real, meaningful education about veterans, PTSD, and how to treat people with dignity, regardless of appearance. We can do that, the corporate woman said. We should have done it years ago. Fourth, Hayes said, his voice getting stronger. You'll establish a formal veteran support program. Special quiet rooms for veterans dealing with sensory issues or PTSD episodes. Preferred parking. Discounts. And you'll partner with local veteran organizations to provide resources. The lawyers whispered to each other. The CEO leaned toward his camera. That's actually a great idea. We'll implement it company-wide. And fifth, Hayes finished, a public apology, not corporate speak. Real words acknowledging what happened and committing to change. It needs to be posted everywhere these videos spread. Social media, press releases, everything. The PR consultant spoke up. We can draft something immediately. No, Tom said suddenly. Everyone turned to look at him. It was the first time he'd spoken since sitting down. I want to write it with you. I want to make sure it's real. The corporate woman nodded. Of course. Whatever you need. They spent the next 2 hours hammering out details. Lisa took notes on her phone. The lawyers drafted agreements. The CEO promised to have renovations started within 30 days. By the time they finished, Tom's head was spinning. There's one more thing, the corporate woman said hesitantly. Mr. Chen, we'd like to offer you a consultant position. Help us develop these programs. Make sure we get it right. The pay would be, I'll think about it. Tom interrupted gently. He was exhausted, overwhelmed, and needed time to process everything. They filed out of the conference room and back down to the main floor. The crowd of veterans was still there, though many were sitting now, chatting in small groups. When they saw Tom emerge, they stood and began clapping again. Commander Hayes took the microphone. Brothers and sisters, we have a victory today. He listed the agreements one by one. With each item, the crowd cheered louder. When he finished, the celebration was deafening. This is just the beginning, Hayes said. What we accomplished here today will ripple across the country. Other companies will take notice. Other veterans will know they don't have to accept mistreatment. We stood together and we won. Frank, the Vietnam veteran, hobbled up to Tom and shook his hand. Thank you, son. You gave us all something to fight for again. Lieutenant Rodriguez saluted Tom formally. Semper Fi, sir. Tom returned the salute, tears streaming down his face again. Semper Fi. The gathering slowly dispersed over the next hour. Veterans exchanged phone numbers and promised to stay in touch. The motorcycle clubs revved their engines and rode off in formation. News crews packed up their equipment after conducting final interviews. Danny, Miguel, and Chris stayed until the end. They sat with Tom at a different bench, ironically, talking about old times and new lives. Remember when you used to say you couldn't wait to go home? Miguel said. That home would be easier than deployment? Tom laughed bitterly. Yeah, that didn't quite work out. It's working out now, Chris said firmly. Look at what just happened. You didn't just stand up for yourself. You changed things for all of us. I didn't do anything, Tom protested. All I did was sit on a bench. Exactly, Danny said. You existed. You took up space. You refused to disappear. That's everything, brother. As the sun began to set, Lisa drove Tom home. They were both exhausted, but somehow energized at the same time. I'm proud of you, Dad, she said quietly. I'm proud of you too. You stood up for me when I couldn't stand up for myself. That's what family does. Over the following weeks, Tom watched the changes unfold. The mall installed quiet rooms with soft lighting and comfortable chairs. Signs went up welcoming veterans and offering discounts. The staff underwent training, and Tom actually helped to design part of the program. The story continued to spread. Other veterans who'd experienced similar treatment began sharing their stories. Businesses across the country started implementing veteran-friendly policies. A movement had begun, sparked by one man's refusal to accept humiliation. Tom eventually took the consultant job, working part-time. It gave him purpose and flexibility. He met regularly with Commander Hayes and other veterans. forming friendships that helped with his PTSD more than any therapy had. 3 months after the incident, Tom returned to the mall with Lisa. She needed to pick up a birthday gift, and he offered to come along. As they walked through the entrance, a new security guard approached them. Tom tensed automatically, but the guard smiled and extended his hand. "Mr. Chen, it's an honor to meet you. I'm Steve, one of the new hires.
I'm Army, did 2 tours in Iraq.
Just wanted to say thank you for what you did. My supervisor told us your story during training. It reminded us why this job matters." Tom shook his hand, feeling warmth spread through his chest. "Thank you for your service, Steve." They walked through the mall, and Tom noticed the changes everywhere. Veterans sitting comfortably in the quiet rooms. Staff members greeting military families warmly. A memorial plaque by the entrance honoring all service members. Lisa nudged him. "You did this, Dad?" "We did this," he corrected. "All of us together." Later, sitting on a bench while Lisa shopped, Tom pulled out his phone. He had a text from Danny with a photo attached. It showed their entire old unit gathered together for the first time in years, all smiling, arms around each other. The caption read, "Next reunion you better be there, brother." Tom smiled and typed back, "Wouldn't miss it." An elderly couple walked past, and the man paused. He wore a faded army cap from Korea. He nodded at Tom's jacket. "Good to see you." "Marine." "Good to see you too, sir," Tom replied. The man continued walking, but the brief exchange meant everything. Recognition, respect, brotherhood. Tom leaned back on the bench, finally able to relax in this space that had once made him feel so small. The mall was busy around him, full of life and noise, but he felt at peace. He'd found his place again, not by fighting battles overseas, but by standing his ground at home. And he knew that wherever life took him next, he wouldn't face it alone. The brotherhood that had protected him in combat would always be there, ready to stand beside him in whatever fight came next. Because that's what family does. They show up, they stand together, and they never ever leave anyone behind.